My fellow investors, it's time to revisit MSTW, MSII, and MSTR. The volatility decay sucks. There's just no getting around that. However, Lynn Alden said the bottom is in, nothing stops this train. We have a long runway ahead of us to look forward to. Sometimes you have a year that's red, you have the bear market, but you can have 18 months, 2 years, possibly longer of an uptrend, a bull market ahead of us. So that's something to look forward to. Now, will we be able to get our principal back if we invested early like I did into MSTW? Maybe not. If we do, it's probably going to be quite a while before that happens. We're just going to have to wait and see what happens. However, I'm very optimistic about the future, and I'm a long-term holder. I've always viewed this as a long-term hold. So in the end, this is going to perform very well, despite the release at the absolute worst time. These ETFs, actually MSII also, if you got into MSII early, probably the absolute worst time to release these ETFs, the timing of everything. It is what it is. However, we're going to go over some of the things that were talked about with Strategy's earnings conference. So the 1 year accretion is 32,341 Satoshis per share. That is an 18% year over year accretion and gain. As we can see, the Bitcoin yield is accelerating. You can see Stretch has grown rapidly to $8.5 billion in just 9 months. So in August 2025, it was $2.8 billion, and April, it was $8.5 billion. That's a 340% annualized growth rate. It is accelerating like crazy, and this is the X factor in how all of these, the MSTR common shares, how they will perform, and these derivatives and these cash flowing vehicles for Strategy. Also, the MNAV has expanded this year, so that's good news. And here we could see preferred equity went from 6.9 billion to 9 billion. So that is the shift that is happening. They are increasing the preferred equity and using that as the most favorable means to gain this equity and then to buy more Bitcoin. And then the common equity issuance went from 44.1 billion to 36.7 billion. So that's on the decline. So clearly there is a shift in their strategy, and I am all for it. I think this is the way that it should be done. There was a lot of FUD in the comments section when I was watching the Strategy earnings conference. Selling equity, he actually mean diluting the shares. Please do not ever repeat FUD like this. Do not be like Jimbo. Jimbo is an idiot. Okay, do not repeat this. There is no dilution happening. The Satoshis per share is going up. It is not going down. Now, I used to say, you should probably call it temporary dilution, but really there's no dilution in Strategy. We are getting that Bitcoin yield. It's positive. When we look at the distributions of MSTW, it says the amount of each week's distribution is based upon a formula that incorporates a number of dynamic market-based inputs, including the recent total return of MSTR shares and implied volatility of MSTR shares. I would say that the distributions seem to be driven more by the weekly returns over implied volatility. When you look at the distributions, they are much, much higher on the weeks where you have those big capital gains, and it's not so much in volatility. So I used to say in the past it kind of mimics, an options trade, but I actually think it's just heavily favored with the weekly gains of the MSTR common shares. And this proprietary formula, it's kind of hidden in a black box. We don't really know what it is, but clearly it's driven by these weekly returns. And also keep in mind that we may not hit that 120% calendar week total return of MSTR. The fund encounters limitations in implementing its secondary investment objective, whether due to market conditions, derivative availability, counterparty issues. So that's that third party they're talking about when they do a swap agreement. There's a third party involved, and they may not get that full exposure like we're hoping to see. But it should be close. It should hit that mark or get close to it most of the time, seeking to maintain its status as a regulated investment company or other factors. It may not achieve the investment results, and then there's also fees and expenses that correspond to 1.2 times the weekly performance of MSTR. We finally have a month where we see an uptrend in Bitcoin, an uptrend in strategy common stock. And so now we could kind of look at the graph, look at the numbers, and we could see who is winning in the total returns category of these income ETFs. So here we see in red, MSTW is ahead, it pulled ahead about halfway through the month over MSII. So the uncapped, 100% uncapped upside seems to be working. It is a fixed leverage. And this is why I bought back into MSTW actually. I just realized that, over the course of, the next 18 months to 2 years, 2.5 years, I really think MSTW has a great chance at outperforming everything else. But I think these are the two, if you want a cash flow strategy, these are the two clear winners, and this is what you want to be in. I think either one is fine. I think MSII can outperform if there is a flat, slightly down, or slightly up Bitcoin market. So it really depends on what's happening. But like I said, over the bull market, I want to be majority into MSTW. And keep in mind, if you're in any of the covered call ETFs and the options ETFs, the real danger and risk of getting capped. Okay, so here we could see the largest positive move for strategy was plus 23.6. This is a single day. So ask yourself, do you really want to risk getting capped this much? Let's say it's half of it, 11 or 12%. That's substantial. And that money is not coming back to you, and it's going to hit you in the NAV. So keep that in mind. I really like the uncapped potential upside of anything that's related to strategy. And here we could see, in this past month where we've had where it's been trending up, Bitcoin and strategy. You can see down there at the bottom in gold, that's IBIT. And we can see that strategy, with the Satoshis per share accretion that's happening, that they're really pulling ahead now. So at the top, we have MSTW, and MSTR is actually there in the middle in green, and MSII is below MSTR. MISTY is down at the bottom of the strategy derivatives. Okay, so that's why I said that's why I got out of it, because I knew that this would happen during the bull market. And we could see proof here that that's exactly what's happening and what's going to continue to happen possibly over the next 2 years. So I hope this gives you some good insight into whether you want to cash flow with strategy, which vehicle do you want to use when you cash flow with strategy. Thanks for watching. Stay tuned. I will be posting a new video next week. And remember to subscribe if you haven't done so already. And I'll see you in the next one.